Good evening, everybody. So today I am re-uploading my supplementary content video for our June entertainment review. Matt and I just shot this video yesterday. I originally shot this video on Friday, but I left out some information, so that's why I decided to reshoot it. So MsMojo came out with a video on Friday that is the top 30 most shocking sitcom moments. A lot of these shows were from the 70s and 80s, but there are some more recent shows with episodes that I haven't watched yet. So I'm going to primarily focus on episodes that I have seen in the past 20 years or more, because most of these shows were on from 1990 to the current time. The first episode I wanted to talk about from MsMojo's video came in at number 28, and it was Chandler and Monica's infertility. I disagree with MsMojo's ranking on this episode. I think they ranked it way too low. They ranked it in the lower part of their list, and in my opinion, it should be ranked higher. I mean, some of their episodes in the top 5 of their video were ranked fairly, but I just feel like Friends should be much ranked higher than 29. In my top 10, I rank it as number 1 because most of the other episodes that MsMojo talks about are from like the Jeffersons and All in the Family, the All in the Family episode, I think, is pretty powerful too. The episode that MsMojo puts at number 1. But I can't remember if I've actually seen that episode, so that's why I can't rank it. So the reason why I have Chandler and Monica's infertility at number 1 is because this, as I have said in previous videos where I have analyzed Friends episodes, this episode is one of my top favorites from the later seasons. It is one of the most powerful performances by Courtney Cox and Matthew Perry. And I have not watched it in my rewatch of the series yet because usually at Nick at Night, these episodes are on later after I've already gone to bed. I don't like to stay up too late watching TV. Hopefully if it's on an earlier time slot, I'll be able to watch it. This episode makes me really emotional because while I can't relate to what Monica and Chandler are going through, I just feel really bad for them that they have to struggle so much with having a kid. I can't relate to them in this situation because I don't think I'm going to have kids myself, but I am certainly able to relate to them in earlier episodes from previous seasons. If you want to go back and watch my top ranked episodes that tackle serious issues video, I talk about a few of those episodes in that video, and also in episodes where I rank MsMojo's top 20 list of top 20 Friends episodes, which I believe the one with the fertility test is actually in my top 20 list of favorite Friends episodes list that I made earlier this year. Let me just look up the ranking from that list. I need to find it. Let's go. Oh, here it is. Okay. So let's see. So in my top 20 best friends episode list that I did when MsMojo released their video at the end of last year, the one with the fertility test tied for number 10 with the one where no one's ready. And I obviously like the one where no one's ready for a different reason than I do with the one for the fertility test. So, the next sitcom moment that was shocking that I wanted to discuss was, Jesse takes caffeine pills from Saved by the Bell. Matt and I go into in our video that we did about how substance use disorder is handled in various episodes of TV shows. The main episode that we reviewed in our video is Uncle Ned from Family Ties, but we also briefly mentioned this episode, which is called Jesse's Song. Since we don't really talk about it in full depth in our other video, I'm going to talk about it here briefly. So in this episode, Jessie Spano, who is played by Elizabeth Berkley, is under a lot of stress between studying for a big test she has coming up and preparing for a school talent show. So to deal with this, she becomes addicted to caffeine pills as Slater and Zach, who are played by Mario Lopez and Mark Paul Gosselaar, step in to help her out. And I feel like when the Friends writers were writing Fun Bobby's plotline, the episodes they should have followed as a blueprint for how to handle the Fun Bobby plotline were this episode of Saved by the Bell and High Anxiety from the Golden Girls. Matt and I both agree that in the one with Russ with Fun Bobby's plotline, substance use disorder is very poorly handled. And why this episode has aged so particularly poorly is because of Matthew Perry's substance use disorder and how he dealt with that throughout the whole entirety of filming Friends. This episode aired the season before the substance use disorder became noticeable, but how they handled Fun Bobby's plotline poorly was first of all, calling him Fun Bobby and making fun of him because he was only fun when he was drinking. B, calling him ridiculously dull Bobby when he was sober. And C, Monica not really being very sensitive to the fact that he was a recovering alcoholic and packing alcohol in her bag when they were going skiing. The Friends writers could have definitely handled substance use disorder better, and as I had just said, they could have used the Saved by the Bell and Golden Girls episodes as a blueprint for how to write that plot line with Fun Bobby and make it better. I also don't really like how substance use disorder is handled in Cougar Town, because you can clearly tell from the first episode that all Jules and her friends do is drink wine. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but to them, 5 o'clock somewhere is like 9 o'clock in the morning. And Travis, Jules' 21-year-old son, calls out his mother and his friends at the beginning of season 4, episode 1, Blue Sunday, and basically say, you guys need to go to AA. But honestly, I think the directors swept that. Courtney Cox was one of the writers of Cougar Town, and I feel they could have handled substance use disorder a whole lot better than they did. In a way, it's kind of worse than how the Fun Bobby plotline was done in Friends, because you can tell from very early on that Jules has a drinking problem, and like they don't even really do anything like to handle it. Like, Jules goes to therapy for other reasons, but you would think that in therapy she would bring up the fact that she had a drinking problem, but that was never mentioned to any therapist, no matter if it's the therapist that's in the current episodes in season 4 or when Jennifer Aniston guest starred in season 2. So I just found that to be really irritating about Cougar Town, which is a show that we are currently watching and reviewing. The last episode I wanted to mention that talks about substance use disorder before I go on to the shocking sitcom moment was Mom, which stars Allison Janney and Anna Faris from Friends. So this episode of Mom is from season 2. It's episode 3. Thigh Gap and a Rack of Lamb. And this is when Bonnie and Chrissy are supporting a girl named Jody, who's in Alcoholics Anonymous, as her sponsor. And Jody does very well with going through AA, but she's in a relationship with a codependent partner who goes through a relapse and gets her addicted again, and then she dies of an overdose. The overdose was handled very well in this episode. And I really like the way how they handled how Chrissy and Bonnie deal with the aftermath of the death of Jody. Another situation that deals with substance use disorder is Glee, with the episode where they honored Corey Monteith's passing, because for those of you who don't remember, Corey Monteith died about 5 or 6 years ago because of a drug overdose, and in Glee, they really handled that situation well to honor their co-star by having Finn die of an overdose. He died off screen, obviously, but the thing that was so heartbreaking about that episode was you could feel the pain of all of his castmates, including Leah Michele, who played Rachel, who was his girlfriend at the time. And I remember feeling bad for them, especially for Leah, because she had just lost her boyfriend. So Glee is another show that did a fine job of talking about substance use disorder and how people can deal with the aftermath of it. The next show that I wanted to talk about is Roseanne. Let me just preface this part of the review by saying I have watched a couple of episodes of the spinoff of Roseanne called The Conners. And so Roseanne definitely had its funny moments and its serious moments. The episode I'm going to talk about was definitely a serious moment that was handled very well. But I remember finding the original Roseanne TV show to be very funny. John Goodman was cemented as one of my favorite actors because of his role of Dan Connor on Roseanne. The Conners, unfortunately, is sort of dull. I've watched 2 or 3 episodes of it. I just don't like it as much as I like Roseanne. I don't think the fact that Roseanne is no longer on the show is really part of the reason why I don't like it. If I had watched the show from the beginning when Roseanne was on it before she got booted off because of how she was a Trump supporter, then maybe I would have liked it better. But I don't know. I just think the spinoff is boring and I'm not going to continue to watch it. Now, this episode from the original series aired in like season 6 or 7 of Roseanne. And at this time when it aired, I was like a teenager. So I was like 13 or 14. And in this episode, Roseanne's sister, Jackie, who is played by Laurie Metcalf, is going through an abusive relationship. And, like, I couldn't really relate to her because I didn't know anybody who went through a situation like that, but I remember feeling really bad for Jackie because she was obviously having a hard time with the abuse, and she didn't really want to have help from her sister and brother-in-law at first, but then once Dan and Roseanne got involved, they obviously got her away from him, which I think was good. The next shocking sitcom moment that I wanted to talk about was John Ritter's passing. This episode of 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter aired after John Ritter died, and much like the episode of Glee, the quarterback, that came out after Corey Monteith died, 8 Simple Rules really handled well dealing with the grief of a cast member, and, like, you could feel the pain of all of these characters because the actors who were on 8 Simple Rules were dealing with John Ritter's death in real time, and that's why it was so easy for us to connect with how they were feeling, and that's why that episode made me cry. For those of you who do not remember, John Ritter also did the voice of Clifford the Big Red Dog on the PBS show Clifford the Big Red Dog, and he was on Three's Company in the 1970s with the late Suzanne Summers, who died last year, and Joyce DeWitt. The next episode I wanted to talk about was Topanga's Professor in Boy Meets World. So this episode aired in 2003, around the same time that the episode with Chandler and Monica's infertility aired. And by this point in Boy Meets World, Corey, Topanga, Sean, Angela, and Rachel and Eric are all in college. And in this episode, Topanga is hit on by her professor, and he tries to start a relationship with her, but obviously that makes her uncomfortable because of the age gap. The age gap is never really specified, but I mean, Topanga is like a freshman in college, so you would assume that she's like 18 or 19, and the teacher is probably like in his 30s or 40s, so that's pretty gross. Like, it's kind of like the Ross and Elizabeth situation from Friends, which I hate that plot line. The directors of Friends could have done without it. But in this episode, basically, the professor comes on too strong in his flirting, and then Corey stands up to him for Topanga, and they end up getting the teacher fired because Mr. Feeney also stands up for Topanga. And Danielle Fischel's acting in this episode was fantastic. I could really feel the emotions that she was going through, even though I had never been in a situation like that before. Number 9 is Howard's mom passing away. So The Big Bang Theory is a more recent show that has been compared to Friends. Because, like, each of the characters can be easily compared to, a character from Friends. Like, Penny could be Joey because she's an actress. See, with the Big Bang Theory characters, it's hard to determine which character could be a Friends character. Sheldon could probably be Ross, and maybe Raj is Chandler because he's socially awkward, and Leonard would not be Joey because I just said Penny could be Joey because she's an actress. And then for the girls, that's even harder because, like, if you try to compare Monica to Bernadette, I guess you could, maybe. But I can't really see how Amy would compare to Rachel. I'll have to think about that one. But anyway, so this episode of the Big Bang Theory where Howard's mom dies is from season 9, I think, which is a fairly recent season. Let me pull up IMDb to look that up. Which episode of Big Bang Theory did Howard's mother die in?
In season 8, Howard's mother dies in her sleep while in Florida.
So season 8 of The Big Bang Theory was not long ago, I feel. Oh. 8. Yeah, this... So season 8... Oh. Season 8, episode 15 of The Big Bang Theory is when Howard's mother passes away. So she dies in her sleep, and his aunt calls Howard from Florida to let him know that his mother died. And I remember in that moment, I felt really bad for Howard that he lost his mom. That was hard for me to watch because so it's not really specified how his mother died. It just says she died in her sleep. But, like, I've dealt with losing family members before. So this episode of The Big Bang Theory aired on February 19th, 2015. And this was a couple of months after my grandmother had died from Alzheimer's. So that's why I was able to really relate to Howard in this episode, because losing a family member is very hard to deal with. And I just felt really bad for Howard, and I really liked how his friends came together to support him. And the final episode I wanted to talk about was Marshall's dad's death in How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother is another modern show that could be considered a spin-off of Friends. And this is the mistake I made in my last video and why I had to remake it, because I was trying to struggle with the character names for some reason. I don't know why. I love How I Met Your Mother, so it's amazing that I had so much trouble remembering this character's names. So let's break it down on which character from How I Met Your Mother is like the character from Friends. Rachel and Ross are Robin and Ted. Phoebe could also be Robin because of her alter ego as Robin Sparkle. Lily and Marshall are Monica and Chandler. And then Joey is Barney. So in this episode, it's very similar to the plot of Monica and Chandler going to the fertility clinic to see if they can have a baby. But the outcome of that plot line is happier for Marshall and Lily because they are able to conceive. The fertility appointment is successful. But what is sad about this episode, and the shocking part, is that Marshall's dad dies of a heart attack, which is very unexpected. And before the appointment at the fertility clinic, basically, Marshall goes to tell his parents that they may not be able to give them a grandchild, and the parents say that they understand. So in the scene when Lily tells Marshall about his dad dying, she gets out of the cab, it's raining out. She tells Marshall that she just got back from the hospital and that his dad passed away. And in that moment, you could see how much raw emotion was on both the faces of Jason Segel, who played Marshall, and Allison Hannigan, who played Lily. And that's another scene that made me cry. The top three episodes in this list that made me cry were Marshall's mother dying, Monica and Chandler's infertility, and Jackie's abuse situation in Roseanne. So, I am going to link MsMojo's video down in the description box. Take a look at it. Please let me know which favorite episode that tackles a serious issue or shocking moment you like the most, you resonate with the most. Do any of these episodes really stand out to you as capturing serious issues well? Which episodes that I have not talked about in past installments of this serious issues in the media series would you like to see us review? A episode in this video that we will be reviewing in a couple of months once we can get the DVD from the library is Growing Pains, Season 4, Episode 20, Second Chance. This was the episode of Growing Pains that Matthew Perry was on before he was on Friends as Alex Keaton's sister's college boyfriend, Sandy. So once we review that episode, we are going to be recalibrating this list and moving some rankings around to make room for Second Chance. because I remember originally watching this episode of Growing Pains on Nick at Night at the same time that Friends was airing. And at that time, I was not really too familiar with Matthew Perry outside of his role of Chandler, so I didn't even recognize him in Growing Pains. But now that I know that that's him, I can definitely make a slight comparison of his character in Growing Pains to Chandler, because you can see a little bit of his humor peeking out in that episode when he's in the hospital room. But when I review the Growing Pains episode, I will definitely compare Sandy to Chandler. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.